You can actually stand at the crossroads of Asia and Europe.
Yeah, there's a bridge called Bosphorus Bridge and the river. It's like the right side is Asia, left side is Europe, and it's very surreal.
Correct. Made very famous by this movie called The Guns of Navarone.
Yep, yep.
So, hi, good evening, Rahul. So, let me just give us a couple of minutes. People are still logging in.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm good. Hello?
You're good? Hi, Rahul.
Yeah.
Yeah? Loud and clear. I can hear you well.
Hello? Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Loud and
Okay.
strength 5.
Great.
So strength 5 is a very Navy thing, huh? I couldn't resist.
Hello?
Hello.
So we are going to wait a little longer or wait a few minutes? Or?
We'll wait for a couple of minutes because people are still logging in, and maybe just give it 3-4 minutes. Aditya has got a fascinating subject, and so I would like as many people to hear about it as possible. And we are in India, so we have some latitude in time, right?
Yeah.
So Aditya is also a cultural expert. He talks about cross-cultural management and so on. So he would understand about time and how the Western world looks at time and how we look at time.
Yeah. So I would try to make this whatever little talk I'm going to give as Indianized as possible.
The floor is yours. So we will actually take Professor Rajan. It's 7 o'clock, and what should we do? Wait for a couple of minutes. Professor Rajan. Professor Rajan, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Should we go start or wait for a couple of minutes? What's your advice?
Yes, sir, another 2 minutes max.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rahul, maybe in another 2 minutes we can start off.
Sure.
So I want to tell all the participants that at the end of the talk, we do issue e-certificates from Dayanand Sagar University. So please do collect them, and I'm sure they would be very sort of useful and valuable. Many of you are young people, so obviously when you go out, you can always talk about what Aditya has talked. So Rahul, how's the weather in your part of the world? Um, is it a
Oh,
little
well,
chilly?
it's a little chilly. It's been overcast right through the week, I think. I think Manu has raised his hand. I don't know. What is there a question?
Yeah. Mr. Manu, do you have a question? You can put it in chat.
No, not a question. I was wondering, looking at the subject, the talk about failure is not the end. Failure is a detour. It's a fantastic subject. To be honest, I think many of us would have lived through failures.
Yeah, and absolutely. I was thinking about the same this morning, and I just realized I have failed more often than I've succeeded. So the number of detours I've taken has been fantastic.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
And it's a great topic. And thanks, Aditya, for coming up for this with this title. And it's fascinating, actually. So we're all looking forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, the credit goes to someone else. I will talk to who is the one who said that. But yeah, it would be great if you guys can also share, I mean, during the talk or after the talk, your experiences, because I think it's a cumulative effect of such experiences that the failures bring in. I think that is the crux of this. So
Yeah, I think
I'll just share my experiences, but I'm sure with 80 plus participants, their cumulative failure experience is amazing and mind-boggling.
absolutely. So we should actually go to people like some of our executive MBA students and who are older. More room for failure. Of course, me and Rahul have been down that journey. Rahul has got fantastic credentials, so I don't know whether he has failed much. Mr. Manu can chip in. He is middling in age, so he must have had his fair share, and so on. Yeah, but for me, because I played a lot of cricket, and many times we failed to win or I got out for a low score. So that set me up nicely. I didn't buy. I just looked at the next game. That's
Oh,
all.
the most frustrating game of all times, I mean, I personally feel is golf. Because whether you're a new golfer, like you started today, or has been playing for anywhere, if you watch golf on the TV, after every shot, there is a disappointment in the person or the player. Every shot, even Tiger Woods is disappointed after the shot. So you have more failures in golf than any other sport.
So while we start off, Aditya, I would like to submit very humbly that I really don't consider golf to be a sport. So I think it's more like a walk in the park, and and yeah, we'll discuss that later. But let's kick off with Dr. Dighe, my very distinguished colleague, Dr. Rahul Dighe, who will take you through the norms of the talk, and then we will. So,
Okay, thanks, Captain. So the way we will proceed through this 1 hour or a little less than that is that we will actually keep everyone will stay on mute throughout the talk. It's simply because we tend to have bandwidth or other interference issues. So if you have any questions, please do go ahead and put them in the chat. I will collect those questions and relay those questions, ask Aditya those questions at the end of his talk. And then towards the end, like Captain said, that there will be a link posted where you can collect your certificate of participation in this. So thanks And over to you, Aditya.
Before we sort of let Aditya commence, I would like to quickly introduce him. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Distinguished Speaker Series brought to you by Dayanand Sagar University, Bengaluru. I would like to welcome Mr. Aditya Ganti. Aditya is, of course, a terrific young person. We have been in touch for several years, and his interest in academia has been enduring. And um, but he was a very young man when he first approached me, and now, very recently, he's joined us as adjunct professor. Of course, he lives in the Middle East. Aditya Ganti is an accomplished international business development, consulting, and marketing professional with 18 plus years of experience in technology industry. He is currently working with IBM as an ecosystem leader, a system leader for IBM and Red Hat solutions for Middle East, Africa, and Turkey. Aditya is an avid golfer, a passionate cook who likes to experiment with different cuisines, and an ardent traveler. He has had the opportunity to live in 5 countries and travel to 45 countries. He is a Beta Gamma Sigma MBA graduate from the prestigious IE Business School in Spain. Aditya is also an engineering graduate. Aditya will speak on failure is a detour, not a dead end. And like we were discussing, it's a fascinating topic. So, welcome to the Distinguished Speaker Series, Aditya. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Captain. Thank you. I think this is the time to share the screen. Can you all guys see the screen?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Captain. Thank you, Rahul. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. My name is Aditya Ganti, and I lead the IBM Red Hat initiatives for Middle East, Africa, and Turkey region. You know, I've been once an MBA student like you, and like many of you graduating, was pretty much in a similar situation back in 2008 and 2009. You know, economic crisis, financial situation back in Europe and US. After a bit of thinking and deliberation, and taking the current backdrop into consideration of the worldly situation, I picked up this topic and inspiration from the immortal words of Zig Ziglar, one of the greatest salesmen of all times, that failure is a detour and not a destination. A topic that I haven't paid much attention till recent past. A subject not many of us are comfortable talking, sharing, or empathizing with. So here is the broad flow of topics to our discussion points today. I was thinking why failure is important. Why don't we talk about it, and why is it important for us? Then I plan to share a few stories that I have come across on the newspaper. And one story is mine. The first story is about a leading actor who was a watchman, and then now he becomes something called Watch Me Man. Then there is a story of a very inspiring and true story of a child bride who's running a 2,000 crore empire today. Then there is my story and what have I learned from it. I'm trying to see if I can bring in a common elements between these three stories and say what's a way forward, from an aptitude and mindset point of view. And of course, we'll conclude with some final thoughts. If you have any questions, as Captain said and Rahul said, please feel free to put in the chat. Happy to see if I can answer them. Please feel free to share your experiences, like we were just discussing that this is not my topic or thing. It's a topic I think we should all talk and celebrate as we move forward. And let's see how we take it from there, and then take the discussion both online, offline, as we move into the next step. So why failure? Why failure is important? Now, why is it important to fail before we can succeed? Now, when we think about failure, we think of things in negative light. Now, we say the failure is painful. It can cause emotional turmoil and inflict agonizing pains of guilt, regret, and remorse. But for those who have known true failure and have bounced back from it, understand that failure is necessary for success. Sure, failing hurts, and there's no doubt about it. In fact, it cuts deep like a razor, slicing it into our inner core. Yet it is necessary. You know, most of the successful people in life have failed the most times. If you try and go through life without failing at anything, then you have not been really living a life at all. Taking risks and failing flat down on our faces is a part of life. It makes us who we are today. You know, let's see, when a baby is first learning to walk, she is going to fall down many times. This, in fact, is a failure, right? But ask any mother about their ability to walk, she will wholeheartedly say and declare that her baby will walk one fine day. She might fall down many times, but she sure will walk. Why is the mother so confident that her daughter will walk? Of course, we all know the answer. We all know that falling down and failing while learning to walk is just a part of our life. So why isn't failure at other things treated this way? I personally feel, I think the problem lies that society tends to celebrate the successes rather than highlighting the epic journeys towards a success that are filled with trials, turbulations, upsets, setbacks, failures. It is not as glamorous as to talk about all those things, isn't it? So why it's necessary to fail? In life, I personally feel failure is definitely a stepping stone for our next journey or success. In fact, there are three very powerful lessons that failure helps us to teach and instills in us. And I will try and dwell on these three lessons through three different stories as we move forward. So my first story is about From Watchman to Watch Me Man. In a small town of Budhana, Muzaffarnagar in Uttar Pradesh, there lived a boy whose dreams were bigger than his family could afford. In a village where education is hard to get, he, along with his 6 brothers and 2 sisters, managed to get whatever they could. In what seemed like a scenario straight off a typical Bollywood film, the village only knew 3 things: wheat, sugarcane, and guns. The guns aspect made this lower middle class family fear for their safety and move out in search of a better livelihood. After that, it was all about survival. So our man takes up odd jobs, sometimes as a watchman, but sometimes selling dhania, coriander. Having acquired a relevant degree from National School of Drama in Delhi, he moves to Mumbai to try his luck in Bollywood. But he didn't have enough money for rent. He used to walk studio to studio, set to set, all day, finding himself only doing petty roles, the one where he had just part of a crowd. He even held acting workshops. He must have gone for almost 100 auditions and taken up every single role that came his way, no matter how small. It has taken 12 long years to get his breakthrough. It wasn't easy. The struggle wasn't glamorous or beautiful. Like what he said, it was survival and struggle. From playing an insignificant role in the movie Munna by MBBS to winning the Filmfare Award for the role in Lunchbox, he went on being unrecognized in the movie Sarfarosh to being known as Ganesh Gaitonde across the nation. He went from being a watchman to becoming a watch me man. This is a story, ladies and gentlemen, of Nawazuddin Siddiqui. Success and recognition never came to him easy. While he felt many times to pack his bag and return to his humble roots, he was never a quitter. And he didn't want to confront his friends who made fun of his dream of becoming an actor. He knows the arduous journey that he began from an innoxious village in UP to the realms of Bollywood was anything but easy. His persistence, his hard work, and never giving up attitude has made him reach the heights of popularity and stardom that we know of today. So what has been his key? What has been like the inspiring or the key learnings from his life story so far? Now, for me, the biggest takeaway has been failure is a function of trying. If you look at all the great men and women throughout the history, you will notice that they had one thing in common. They failed. They failed often, and this is very true in case of Nawazuddin Siddiqui, who has seen 12 years of failures. The best way to measure progress at something is the number of setbacks and failures we have had. If you haven't failed yet, chances are you aren't trying very hard. Failure is like blacksmith's hammer that tempers the swords of success. If you want to really good at something, you have to really fail a few times. Henry Ford of Ford Motor Corporation once said that failure is an opportunity to begin again, more intelligently this time. So clearly, failure represents more opportunity and growth, not deficit and loss. Let's move to the second story. This is a very inspiring story of a child bride who is now leading an enterprise of 2,000 crores in the city of Mumbai. At the helm of 6 companies, Kamani Tubes Limited, Kamani Steel Rolling Mills, Sai Krupa Sugar Factory, Kalpana Builders, Kalpana Saroj Associates, and KS Creations. Kalpana Saroj today employs 600 people, with a combined turnover of 2,000 crores annually. But did Kalpana get all this on platter? No. On contrary, she faced with the most difficult situations as child. She braved odds against everything to emerge as one of the most successful women entrepreneurs of our times. Kalpana was married at the age of 12, and she used to live in slums of Mumbai with her husband's family. After physical abuses from her husband and family members, she was rescued by her father, left her husband, and returned to her village to start living with her parents again. She thought living is hard, so dying is easy. Those were the thoughts that she went as she downed a bottle of poison after being ostracized by the villagers. She survived, but she was heartbroken. At the age of 16, she convinced her parents to move back to Mumbai, and she started living back in Mumbai in the slums with her uncle. She started working in a small garment factory to support her family. Amidst her all this chaos, her younger sister fell ill, and they could not afford her treatment. While the sister kept crying, "Didi, save me, I don't want to die," the family could not help her. Her last words were seared in Kalpana's memory. That's when she realized that life without money is useless, and she was going to earn lots of it. She started working 16 hours a day, a habit that she still maintains. Using the government loans for scheduled caste people, she successfully started a tailoring business in Mumbai and then went on to create and start a furniture store. She got into this real estate business and very soon became quite adept and expert in litigation land deals. And then finally, her claim to fame was converting a sick industrial unit with 3,500 employees and laborers into a profitable enterprise today in a less than decade's time. Kalpana was awarded Padma Shri for her work for trade and industry in 2013 and was also appointed to the board of directors of Bharatiya Mahila Bank by Government of India. Today, Kalpana Saroj, that poor girl who started out as a helper in garment factory, lives in a 5,000 square feet house in Kalyan, near Bombay. And if you thought she is breathing easy at 60, you're wrong. She is now going to invest in hotel business in Rajasthan. So I mean, isn't it a great and inspiring story of living times? I was wondering, what is my key takeaway? And I came up with it. Success lies in seeing failure as a tool. Success occurs in leaps and bounds for all the people who are ready for it. To genuinely create a value, day in and day out requires determination, purpose, and most of all, a subtle and yet all important quality called character that were all there in Kalpana all throughout. Just as all the greats have something in common, so do all the failures have something in common. That is their inability to use failure as a tool. When you feel that sinking, desperate situation known as failure, you take it to heart. You diminish yourself and you give away the power to that external event that has caused it. Now, success is all about learning how you recognize why you failed and how you're going to compensate. And that has been a biggest tool for Kalpana all throughout life. She also thought failure is an opportunity and not a burden. And she was like, for all of us, we should be grateful to use failure and take that as a chance to grow. Let me talk about the third story. This is my story. So it was May 2017, May 17th, 2020, a few months back, 10 a.m. in the morning. And I was waiting for this call that my manager and I were about to get in on the WebEx for our weekly regular interlocks. My manager joined the call a few minutes late, and we started with the usual chit chat about the current lockdown situation that we were in, that I was based in Dubai, and his lockdown situation in Johannesburg that he was based out of. After a few minutes of the chat, I see another person joining the call. It was the HR. My heart started beating faster, and I almost knew what was going to happen. Once the introductions were done and the pleasantries exchanged, my manager started. Aditya, I'm sorry, but we have to make a tough choice. We have to let you go. I'll email you the details and the letter later, and your last day in the company would be 17th of June, 2020. That day, I came to this realization again that failures and setbacks are simply part of our lives. We just can't always win. We just can't always get what we want. And we just can't always hit our goals. That's the truth. Ashte. Avadda. Ante. Period. It's up to us how we react to those failures and setbacks. We can either quit, blame someone or something, or we can take the responsibility and embrace the fact that I have failed. Most people avoid failures, and even worse, they fear them. I'm a big Bollywood fan. Huh? So like Shah Rukh Khan in Om Shanti Om says, Abhi picture baki hai mere doston. Coming back to my story, for the first few hours of my meeting with my manager, I felt numb, empty, heartbroken. It was that feeling of having lost everything, having the feeling of embarrassment, shame, and letting you and your family down big time. Now, I was going through a turmoil of emotions and felt that the world was coming to an end. And I've been feeling all the emotions from sadness to optimism to despair to anger to pessimism. And it got to a time that I couldn't feel anything anymore. So after a few hours of numbness, I stepped out of house and went for a really long walk in the 50 degrees heat of Dubai summers. Came back with the best possible plan that I could at that time. Made few phone calls within the company and outside the company to apprise the situation. looked into the company network and internal portals for available opportunities. So May and June, not so great time for hiring them. Updated my LinkedIn profile and CV. I thought I had still had 30 days in the company. So I took 2 stretch assignments for 3 to 4 weeks with the possible 2 open roles that can come up. I had to plead and convince these here hiring managers and leads to give me that opportunity to bring my expertise and experience to these roles. Because I have never done these roles before. So there was a lot of apprehension from these managers. So after that, I toiled and collaborated with all the colleagues doing the similar roles across the world, learned the tricks of the trade for the next 3 weeks for both the roles. Working for more than 15 plus hours a day was getting exhausted, but I knew the time in hand was limited. It was June 11th, just 1 more week to go, when one of the hiring managers said she was okay to proceed with my candidature, but did not have the approvals in time. I work, it's a large organization, so there are a lot of approvals that are needed for every step we take. So for the next 1 week, she and I were fighting in the system to see if we could get the approvals on time. And finally, on 17th of June, 2020, at 5 p.m., I get a mail from HR saying that my separation has been rescinded. The same day I got hired back, the day I was supposed to exit, with 1 level up and raise in my salary. So this has something that has completely changed my perspective of the world the way I see it. This setback, this change in my perspective is because the failure has given me an experience, knowledge, and resilience to grow. So the experience of failing at something is truly invaluable is what I realized. It completely alters our frame of mind through induction of pain. It makes us reflect on the real nature of things, their importance in our lives, and transform in improving our future selves. I also thought that this failure has brought some good first-hand knowledge. That knowledge can be harnessed in the future to overcome that very failure that inflicted so much of pain in the first place. Nothing can replace the knowledge gained from a failure. Finally, failing in life helps to build resilience. The more we fail, the more resilient we become. When Thomas Edison famously failed at nearly 10,000 times to create modern day commercially available electric bulb, with each failure, he gained that knowledge of just one more avenue that didn't work. It was accumulated knowledge developed from nearly 10,000 failed attempts that ultimately led to his success. In order to achieve great success, I personally feel we should know and show resilience. Because if we were going to succeed on every first try or even the first few attempts, we are sure to set ourselves up for a far more painful failure. So, what has been the common elements of these 3 stories, if I have to sum it up? Or what has been the common elements? I somehow feel it is the power of the mindset. All the 3 stories were forward-looking people in some form to embrace and instill the fabric that requires the change of the mindset. So people need to see failures not as a series of setbacks, but truly as a competitive advantage. In her book, Mindset, if you get a chance, please read that. Carol Dweck identified 2 ways of thinking: fixed and growth mindsets. People with fixed mindsets feel that intelligence is static. They try and avoid challenges, fear. They tend to see obstacles faster and give up easily. They see effort as futile or fruitless or not interested at times. They also see criticism as a demotivator and ignore the feedback. And to some extent, they also feel that they get threatened by the success of others. That's what she captured when she identified what kind of mindsets work. This is what fixed mindset works. But on the contrary, if you look at what is growth mindset, the people with growth mindset will see that intelligence can be acquired and developed with every experience they can as they come along. They are ready to embrace challenges. They are not scared of them. They're okay to go ahead and tread on that path. Every set, even if after every setback, they are okay to persist and move forward. They also see, people with growth mindset also see that their efforts as a path to mastery. They're absolutely open to criticism. And finally, they always see lessons and inspirations in success of others. A fixed mindset, according to her, enables growth and learning, while a growth mindset helps you to view failure in a positive light and use it to propel your way forward. My final thoughts on today's subject. So, if you failed in life, you can use that as a leverage to not only recover from it, but also help propel you in a forward with a brighter future. Failure can be a great platform for growth that is simply unmatched. To leverage your failures, you have to illuminate them in your mind. Write down what you failed and why you failed. Did you know deep enough meanings to your goals in the past? What could you have done differently? How will you tackle those failures in future when you're faced with it? How will you learn from the past to help shape a bigger and a brighter future? See, failure isn't a road as long as you don't give up. If you still believe in your goals, you can use failure as a leverage to push past all the limitations. So, if you have heard the commencement speech of J.K. Rowling in Harvard's, she talks about this infamous lines that some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well as have not lived at all, in which case you fail by default. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions, thoughts.
Participants, if you have any questions, this would be the right time to post them in the chat. So, Aditya, maybe I will start. I have one question specifically about the story about, maybe if you can elaborate a bit on what Henry Ford said and why it is that he felt that it's an opportunity actually to make a fresh start. And maybe you can also, if you can also relate to maybe some of your experiences, I think it will enlighten people here.
Yeah. I see. I was just trying to explain the same concept to my son other day. See, the way I see it, that if we are getting comfortable with a particular situation, the way I was getting comfortable at one point, our ability to learn and understand new things becomes so limited. So the concept of failure doesn't dawn upon till you have something comes external. So the way I see Henry Ford's perspective is that if we have to restart the whole thing, I would have the cumulative experience of having what I have done wrong and start it more intelligently. So hopefully, if I have to draw a graph, So my starting point will not be from a zero. Probably it will be at 20 or 30 if I have to restart it. So that 20 or 30 for me has been that experience that hopefully that I will correct and make an intelligent decision and learn from my failure to move forward. So that's my perspective, and that's what I am trying to do. That whatever has happened in the last 6 months, that has been an eye opener and a big thing for me. So the way I would like to see it myself is going to, all the other ways, a lot of people try to reinvent the whole concept of taking the perspective of what has happened, why it happened, put that into learning, and go to the next step. That's what I would say, Rahul. That's what has been
Great,
happening.
great. So there are a couple of very interesting questions. One is I mean, there are two questions from our professors. One is from Professor Joshi. It's of course he feels that this has been an excellent talk and uh, about the specific corona-related challenges today. I mean, there are challenges and learning opportunities that have come up for each one of us as well as us as a collection, as a society. So, what are your views on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, we'll have to break it up into things for as an individual and as a society. The first thing, as an individual, I have been a victim of it. Like I did mention in my talk, that yes, it has been challenging, and I feel that everybody, whether it's in friends or family, has been a victim or has been, let's say, impacted with this whole pandemic across the world. All my friends, family. Uh, and I've also seen people reacting to this particular aspect in a different ways. So I think it's a very personal thing. Some people are taking it as an opportunity to grow, as an opportunity to go back to school, an opportunity to learn and redevelop, reskill themselves. So there is a whole journey they're going to unlearn and relearn to move into what is needed as we move forward. So I personally, in that aspect, that what are the skills, the attitude, and the character that we need to build? Because if this, most of those people who study economics, there's always an up and down, right? Or people who study physics, there's a sine wave already always. So this is, we are at the bottom. So we don't know whether how the economy will think. Some people are saying we'll have a U-shaped economy. We are not really sure at this stage. It could be an L, it could be a K-shaped economy, depending on the economics that you are reading and the person you track. But I feel there is always going to be an uptick once the vaccine gets announced, and there will be hopefully a market. But if you see the European market, the US markets, stock markets, and Indian markets are doing very well. The people have seen their investments going up. So to answer your question, if I look at that, if am I ready to ride the wave, is what I am looking forward. In the maybe 3 months or 6 months down the line, am I ready to ride the wave? As a community or as a society, I feel this has been such a big wake up call. We have seen the elements of the infrastructure or the healthcare that needs like overhauling across the board, across the countries, whether it is US, Europe, or India. Or we are looking for complete overhauling of our healthcare system. Education system is going through. All of you are in the education, as going through so much of things. I think technology will become the common element across all these industries. I think I spoke a lot, but yeah, that's my current views on the question.
Yeah, and there are couple of questions, very interesting ones related to how does one go through that process of when you're hit by failure or you realize maybe you have failed or the situation has failed you or whichever one, there is a failure, and how does one go through that process? Because and how does one maintain the patience is one question. Second question is there is the obvious criticism from various quarters, right? I mean, when this happens. So while many people are supportive, at the same time, of course, there are bound to be detractors and point to only any event, in my opinion, personal opinion. I mean, there is a contribution that you have towards that. And I mean, bad luck has, I think, two parts. One is yours and one is maybe circumstantial. But uh, people always, many people will tend to look at the part that you contributed to the failure, and you will go through criticism. So how does one deal with that as well?
See, honestly, Rahul, I personally haven't faced any criticism actually. I was actually have got so much of support from every quarter in that period. And I somehow feel that this is one of the few times when the word empathy gets absolutely true meaning, because each one of us is or has been affected in some form or fashion. So it could be a direct impact or indirect impact, but people have seen that impact. Whether you are in you, this is probably the first time in our lifetimes that we see an impact across board, across industries, across geographies. So I have had a chance to travel world and live in multiple countries. All the friends from all these places are going through in some form of uh, lows in their lives, whether it is personal or professional. So I personally haven't seen criticism, but I think if personally, it is all about that growth mindset I'm in, because uh, I would not say that I was not, no, it was not a hard time. I would not discount that aspect at all. But I personally feel the faster we try to come out of that shell, because I was not the only guy who got affected during that time, or was getting affected, but probably I'm the only guy to get hired back. So, that's the thing. I think it is a lot depends on how much we want to disassociate what would happened. It's an event. Like somebody was telling, I was remaking, as I was going through this effort of making notes. Somebody said that failure is not a person. Failure is an event. So once we can dissociate between the person and the point, I think it's easier. Is what I can say from my personal experience.
Right, right. And then the other thing that I think people obviously are curious about is maybe some of this is depends on the perspective of the person asking the question. Is in the current situation, in the COVID situation, there have been many people who have lost their jobs. So are these failures of people, or are these failures of organizations? And I mean, my first take on that could be that these are very trying circumstances. So I mean, largely, I think maybe no one particularly is to blame, but would certainly like to hear your perspective.
See, this, like I said, the situation is very unique. I don't think so anybody has a playbook for this situation. I mean, people are
Right.
designing the playbook as we move forward. But like I said, this is one of the few situations where all of us are on the same boat. So it's actually good to be that, if I look at that perspective. See, had it been in 2008, 2009, when I was studying back in Spain, and the situation was at the subprime crisis that hit, it was pretty much US and Europe, Western Europe. Asia Pacific didn't get impacted. After me sending about 150 mails a day, I got my first job in Malaysia. So I moved from Madrid to KL. So that perspective was very unique to our situation. In this case, I somehow feel if losing a job, or getting impacted through salary losses, or salary not coming salary, or people not finding jobs, I somehow feel uh, all of us are in that boat. So I don't see that as a what do you call it, is a person's problem, or is it a fault of the organization, because organizations are making this call because they are getting impacted. Like so if you look at airlines, so airlines that's a stream. There is passengers are not traveling, airlines are not making, the companies that support airlines are not making money. So there's a whole chain of events that's going to get now funded by the whole either the government or the public sector. So I will not say that there is people are it's a person's fault or organization's fault. It is what it is. I mean, and uh, I somehow feel that it's our attitude that we need to change. One thing I will double down is the skills. Um, Skills will be of value. The skills people have had for the last 5 years may or may not be relevant. So as you change, the skills that needs to be updated, because I personally feel once we go into that uptick, or when the wave is, we are ready to ride the next wave, we should be all a different person. We should all be having a perspective that wasn't there before.
Absolutely, and I think it is since myself and Captain, we are at that age where we have gone through, and we had this discussion maybe in one of the earlier talks, that we have gone through these reinventions of our own careers. I think for people who are much younger, I think that is something maybe to remember always, that gone are the days where maybe like your parents, you could take up a job, have a single skill, and that would be relevant for 30-35 years. Those days are completely gone, and maybe every 10 years one needs to reinvent oneself through acquiring skills. Maybe today the world is actually more connected. Maybe be willing to move to different countries, different cities in India. I think there is a great reluctance. Sometimes I see that it's there between in younger people in terms of moving to, say, parts of India which they are not familiar with. And there are real people living there. There are real people living everywhere. And once you try and go there and settle down, you'll find like-minded people, and things just work out fine. So I think trying different things, not being afraid to try different things, I think that's halfway there. It takes you halfway there. So okay, I think we've had a fairly good set of questions answered. I think the one line that comes to mind is, I don't know who exactly quoted it. It was Thomas Jefferson or who else. But the harder I work, the luckier I get, right? And I think that is certainly true. So when you see a failure, I guess the message all of us maybe somewhere are saying is that you work harder, and things somehow just magically always turn around. So with that, Captain, would you like to ask any questions for the participants? By the way, there is a link that is posted in the chat window. Please do click on it and collect your certificate. Captain, I would hand over to you if you have any questions, or if not, then for closing remarks. Maybe you are speaking on mute. Okay, so maybe there is some connectivity issues. I don't see him online. Okay, so I hope that participants have had you've had the chance to collect your certificate. Click on the link and collect a wonderful certificate. Aditya, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time and sharing your perspective. The examples that you gave are absolutely they go across geographies, across an entire century of people who have maybe failed and picked the situation up, and succeeded. Use failure as an opportunity to actually get ahead of the rest of the pack. So to all the participants, thank you very much. To Aditya, once again, thanks for a wonderful talk. And to everyone, have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.